Good morning. Welcome back to Planet Doug. And as is often the case, my day is beginning with going down the stairs of my hotel and then clicking the button to release the magnet so that I can go outside. Welcome to Chow Kit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And there's a lot going on in my life and on my mind. I have a lot of things to do and a lot of things to talk about. So today's video is going to be a bit of a jumble of events and thoughts and all kinds of different things. We'll see how it all comes together. My last video was a bit of a story time video. I went out into Kuala Lumpur to get passport photos taken. And while I was doing that, I was just telling the story about all of my research into how one renews a Canadian passport. And I was, all the stories about my struggles with the Canadian government website and all the mistakes I made, all the things that I figured out, things I thought I needed to do or that I should do. And it turns out I was wrong about everything. And I'll talk about that a little bit here. And I've got some technology stuff going on, as always. I'm shooting this video in 4:3 aspect ratio, which means I can use a 2.7K resolution at 50 frames per second. A whole bunch of like YouTube technobabble there. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. So last you heard from me, I was in the throes of applying to renew my Canadian passport, and I went out trying to get passport photos taken. And I eventually did get the pictures. I told that whole story. The whole thing was a disaster from beginning to end, because at that time I thought I was under a lot of time pressure, and I had to get it done now. So even though I hadn't slept for what felt like forever, and I was exhausted and looked terrible, and I was so stressed out, I still got the photos taken, and they look absolutely horrible. What I should have done was waited until a day like today, because last night I slept beautifully. Comfortable hotel room, air conditioned, nice bed, perfectly quiet. I still use earplugs even in a quiet room. But because all the passport stress was over, I finally managed to turn off my brain and go to sleep. So I feel great today. I hope I look better today. And this is when I should have gotten my passport photos taken, right? So I'm here in the Chow Kit monorail station, and I'm leaving Chow Kit area using a different route, by the way. I'm fascinated by public transportation, so I talk about that all the time. She's very, very loud. Wow, that was a loud advertisement. But here on the monorail, I could head that direction, off in that direction, and head towards Bukit Bintang, KL Central. It's all in that direction. But that's a very long journey. But I can also go in this direction, one stop, and after one stop I end up at Titiwangsa station, and at Titiwangsa I can transfer to the MRT Kajang line or the Ampang Petaling Jaya LRT line. So it's like a major hub one stop away. So that's what I'm doing today to leave from here, just going up to Titiwangsa, transfer to Ampang Jaya line or the Ampang Petaling Jaya line, and then head down. So that's what I'm going to try out this time. Should work out fairly well. Power of touch and go. And I believe I want platform 1, to Titiwangsa. I probably just missed the train. One issue with the monorail is that the trains are not that frequent. I think on the sign they say they come every 10 minutes, and that feels like there it is, every 10 minutes. It could be true. Feels a little bit optimistic, because I definitely wait up here longer than 10 minutes sometimes. But I do love the monorail. So, passport story. I did finally get my passport photos done, and I think they were done according to the Canadian government specifications. You know, fingers crossed. I had printed out my application form. I filled it out online as a PDF, but then I printed it out, and then I could use a pen to sign it and date it and do all those sorts of things. And then I had an appointment at the Canadian High Commission at 11:30 in the morning. And then I made an unusual mistake. I don't know what's wrong with me. I blame everything on YouTube and on the GoPro, because as soon as I start recording video and editing video, I lose most of my brain power and I just do the dumbest things. So I knew my appointment was at 11:30. I knew this for days, and yet at 10:30 in the morning, I was still in my hotel room, sitting on the bed on my laptop, like replying to YouTube comments. And it hit me all of a sudden. It's like, oh crap, it's 10:30. I don't even know where I'm going or how I'm going to get there. And it could be rush hour, it could be crazy traffic out there. It could be, anyway, normally in my normal life, if I have an appointment at 11:30 for something as important as renewing a passport, I'm there at 10:30. Like, I'm leaving at 9:30, getting there at 10:30, and then I'm waiting an hour. I'm an hour early for my appointment. I'm that kind of person. And this time, for some reason, after all this work, after all this stress, after everything I've been going through, I practically missed my appointment because I stepped outside. I got dressed really, really quickly. I grabbed everything I needed really, really quickly, headed outside, and it was raining. So that slows everything down. And I was standing out here on the street outside my hotel, somewhere in this direction. I'm all disoriented again. I don't really know where I am. Here comes a monorail train. It's not mine, though. I guess, yeah, I'm totally disoriented. I guess I'm heading in that direction. For some reason, my internal compass is all screwed up. I thought I was going in that direction, but I'm not. Unless I'm on the wrong platform. But I think I'm okay. But anyway, I stepped outside, discovered it was raining, and I discovered I didn't know what to do. Oh, it was like, how do I get to the Canadian High Commission using public transportation? I hadn't done the research in advance. So I was standing there going, I got out my phone, I'm trying to look on Google Maps, and okay, if I get on the monorail, I go here, I transfer there, and the clock was ticking, and I thought, well, this is the time I need to hop in a Grab. I don't like using Grab generally. I should use Grab more often. It's not that expensive, and it's really kind of convenient. So I thought, okay, I better not risk this, because if I get into the monorail and there's a 20-minute delay, and I didn't need that stress, so I summoned a Grab, and the Grab was a little bit slow getting here. It had to do all these one-way street routes to get there, and I was tracking it on my phone, and I could see every time it got to a red light, and it just sat there and sat there and sat there on the map. And I was like, come on, come on, come on, come on. You know, and then it would start moving. I was like, oh, thank goodness. And you get to the next corner and just sit, and I'm pulling out my hair, I'm going crazy. And I was really worried that the driver would decide that, this is too much hassle, and they were going to cancel me. And I thought, oh, now this guy, I wait 15 minutes for him, and then he cancels, then I'm really going to be in trouble. Such a dummy for not leaving earlier. I couldn't believe I'd made that rookie mistake. But the Grab driver eventually showed up. He wasn't the friendliest guy. He wasn't a chatterbox. I tried him out with a bit of small talk. I wanted to share the drama of my Canadian passport renewal experience, but he wasn't interested. So I just sat in the back quietly and monitored our progress on the phone. And it worked out that we got to the Canadian High Commission. He knew where to go. He got me there on time. And I was like 15 minutes early for my appointment, something like that. And actually, I met another Canadian there who who was also getting his passport renewed, he had an 11:20 appointment. Mine was at 11:30. So it was like a 10-minute window for each appointment. And this guy was much more, he was cool as a cucumber. And he says, oh yeah, 10 minutes, more than enough. As long as you've done everything right, boom, 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 you're out of there. So he was not stressed out at all, as opposed to me. Anyway, my train is here. And that's the inside of the new monorail. These are new trains, and much bigger, nicer than the older trains I used to ride on. There's the map. Okay, we are heading in the right direction. Chow Kit. And we're going to Titiwangsa. And we're...
Interchange station to MRT Ampang Line, MRT Sri Petani Line, and MRT Putrajaya Line.
Just listening to that announcement, I was wrong. It doesn't. I thought it linked up with the Kajang line. This one here, the green one, but it doesn't. It links up with the Putrajaya line, the yellow one. I knew that. I just misspoke. But I'm transferring to one of these, Ampang or Sri Petaling. That's what I'm doing. It's like even the world is overjoyed that my passport renewal drama is coming to a close. Look at that gorgeous day out there. Beautiful sunny day. Yeah, this interchange at Titiwangsa is quite impressive. I love to see how that happens, where three completely different public transportation lines all come together naturally at the same place. The monorail, the MRT, and an LRT line all coming together. Very cool. Yeah, the MRT, so there's an entrance to the MRT, Titiwangsa. Station 17, but they all have the same name. So if you're going to Titiwangsa, a monorail station, the MRT station, and the LRT station, they're all called Titiwangsa. They don't give them different names. I guess that makes sense. But you can always tell the MRT apart, because the MRT is the newest line, much bigger and more modern than the older line. So all these white buildings over there, that pedestrian crossing bridge, all of that is part of the new MRT complex. I'm sure I've done this transfer in the past, but I don't really remember it. I'm not heading for the stairs just yet. I always like to slow down, take a look around, look at my surroundings. So this is the end of the line for the monorail, and I find that kind of fascinating because there's only one line into the station, right? It can only accommodate one train on one line, and yet there are two lines out there. So this part has a industrial strength mechanism to move the track from one side to the other. Yeah, well, it's one line but two different tracks. That's what I wanted to say. But I love to see this moving from side to side. That's very cool. So it's already on the right side, or the correct side, the left side. So there goes the monorail. Very brightly painted with all the advertisements for something. Mecha Mat. I don't even know what that is. The monorail that could. It seems so quaint compared to, oh, there it goes, it's moving over to the other side. I love that. All day long, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, let's go take care of our transfer. Just follow the signs. Not to get too deep into the weeds, but it can get a little bit complicated because the Ampang and Sri pedaling lines use the same tracks sometimes, and sometimes they don't. So yeah, actually, I think I have to exit from the monorail. Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, maybe not. Interchange to LRT and MRT. So maybe I don't have to exit. Or maybe I do. Oh no, here we go. Follow the signs. There we go. Oh yeah, I remember all this. Yeah. Just go down the tunnel. So, my passport story. I was at the giant building where the Canadian High Commission was located. I met this other Canadian renewing his passport. He looked like Mr. Cool. He wasn't panicked, or yeah, he was like a normal person, I guess. So we chatted as we were checking in, because it's pretty high security. And if I can pat myself on the back to a certain extent, I did anticipate this. And the fact is, I don't have any video of this because I knew the High Commission would be very security conscious. So I emptied my knapsack. I took out everything. All my cameras, all my camera mounts, all my microphones, all my gear. I basically went to the High Commission with my smartphone and my application form and my passport and my wallet and a comb. That's all I took with me, because I knew if I had anything else, it was going to cause trouble. So you got to check in at the door in the lobby. They check your passport against the appointment list. That's key. If you don't have an appointment, you're not getting in. So they have to look at the list. If you have an appointment, they give you a special card that allows you to go through the turnstile and activate the elevator. Both of us got in the elevator, and we were trying to push the button to go up to the 17th floor, and it wasn't responding. And it took a while. I finally realized, oh no, we have to scan our card to activate the elevator. Just kind of funny. Here is the map for this line, by the way. We're here, and I want to go to Bandaraya, platform 2. This way. So we managed to activate the elevator with our security card, went up to the 17th floor, and then I ran into something that I knew from the past, but I totally forgot about. And that is, you're not even allowed to bring in your smartphone. They're so security conscious, no phones allowed. So they take away your phones and they put them into a locked cabinet, and you get a key to your cabinet. But even though they're taking away your phone completely, they also ask you to either turn it off or put it on airplane mode. So you have to hold the phone out and show them, okay, it's on airplane mode, and now they take it away from you and lock it up. So very high levels of security. And this catches a lot of people by surprise, and me too, because I tend to keep all of the information I need on my phone. So I know I'm going to have to be speaking with not an immigration, but a government High Commission official. And she may be asking me all kinds of questions. Data, like addresses, phone numbers, reference information, dates, times, places. And I'm thinking, well, I have my phone. If she asks me, I can just look all this up. You can't. So you have to be aware of that when you're dealing with the woman or the man from the High Commission, you actually go into a little cubicle, like a security room. You get locked inside this room, and the official comes into the same room but from the other side, and you're separated by bulletproof glass with a little panel at the bottom you can pass your paper through. But once you're in that room, you don't have your phone anymore. And then if the woman asks you for something you don't know, you're like, well, that's on my phone. Like, oh, where were you last year? Where did you go? This, that, when did you get your passport? Well, that I could look up because I have my passport. But anyway, she could ask all kinds of questions, and I would normally refer to my phone, but it's like, I don't have my phone. So that's a real trick in the system. You got to make sure all of your information is accessible on paper or in your brain, because you're not going to have your phone anymore. And then what happened was exactly what I expected to happen from the beginning, because my original idea was to simply go to the High Commission, sit down with one of the officials, and have them walk me through the application form, because they can explain things to me that I don't understand. And now that I was in this prison cell, essentially, it's almost like you're going there to visit someone who's in prison, where you pick up a phone. You see that in movies all the time, and you talk over the little intercom phone. And so now that I was in this room, I handed the woman my application form, and she went over my form line by line, and then she asked me little questions about this and that, and we could have a conversation. And then she just got out her pen and just said, oh, you don't need that information. Oh, you don't have to fill out this part. Oh, this doesn't apply to you, etc., etc. Getting on the train. Just arriving at Bandaraya station, which is where I wanted to go. And this is an interchange with the KTM. And all of these things actually mean something to me, because I'm pretty familiar with the system by now. Look at that day out there. The birds are singing, the sky is blue. At least I assume the birds are singing. Can't hear them over the traffic and the trains. And there goes the LRT. There go both of them. This is different. I don't know if I've ever noticed this before. It's like almost like a phone booth, but it's the elevator. So it's an elevator priority for them only. Women, pregnant women with babies, wheelchair, elderly people, that sort of thing. I was just thinking to myself, they need to add one more symbol. They need to add like a YouTube play button, because we YouTubers, I'm telling you, we classify as people who need help. We need all the help we can get. So we need a priority elevator for YouTubers as well. What do you think? And there's the bridge I want to cross right over there. Once I finish my passport story, I'll tell you where I'm going and why. If anybody knows me really, really well, you might be able to guess. If you remember all of my videos and my interests, things like that, you might be able to guess where I'm going. But yeah, look at the skyline here. The giants. The power. And out we go. Could be a YouTuber, live streamer, taking video with their phone over there. If this were Sumatra, I'd probably have seen 3 or 4 live streamers already. Very popular in Indonesia to be live streaming all the time. Everybody's doing it these days. Back to the passport story. So now that I was in the room with a woman from the Canadian High Commission, gave her my passport, gave her the form, and then as she was going over the form, I tossed out my little queries, and told her about some of my concerns about what I had filled out. I wanted to check with her that I had done the right thing. And that's when she just gave me all the answers so easily that I had had so much trouble finding on my own. For example, when it came to addresses, like I said, there's a part on the form where you put in your permanent address. No problem, I do that. But then later in the form it says, well, what about the last 2 years? If you were not at your permanent address, then please tell us your other addresses. And then I'm stuck because I've got like 10,000 other addresses. If I had to list every guest house, every hotel, every hostel that I've stayed in over the last few years. So I don't know what to do with that section. Particularly, I mean, people gave me advice. Everybody would say things like, oh, just write down the name of your current hotel and one of the hotels where you spent the most time. And well, that sounds reasonable. But then when you start to do that, you get to the end and then it says, well, how many months were you there? From what month to what month, right? So my current hotel, I'd been there 1 night, 2 nights maybe. So there was no way to fill the form out because it didn't accept days. It would only accept months. So you're stuck again. So I just left it blank. And then the woman looked at that, heard my question, and then she says, oh yeah, that's fine. So you've been traveling for the last 2 years? Yeah, oh, okay, just leave that blank. It's like, just, you know, so easy. I was trying to find that information on the website on my own. Like, okay, if I've been traveling for 2 years and I don't have any other addresses, what do I do? But that is not, that information is nowhere to be found. You had to find that out from a human being. It's like, oh, thank goodness. And every single thing on the form was like that. And I would say, oh, what about this? I couldn't figure out how to do this. Oh, you don't need that part. Gone. This part, you don't need it. Gone. It's like, oh, so easy. Crossing over the bridge. We're going over a major road system and the MRT system or the LRT system over there and the KTM train tracks over there. I'd like to point these things out because I always think in terms of being a pedestrian or a cyclist. And as a cyclist in Kuala Lumpur, this is what you run into. You'll be over there on the left side. You want to go over onto the right side, but you're looking at 2 train tracks and 6 lanes of fast-moving traffic. And there's no way to get across. So, yeah. But when you live here for a while, you figure these things out. Even when I was riding a bike, I would use these bridges, but then you have to pick up your bike and carry the bike up and down these stairs. But you get a bit sweaty. You get a workout, and it eventually gets you across. But you'd have to carry your bike up these stairs, down the next stairs, etc. Yeah, these are the KTM train tracks. So these are the trains here that go to Batu Caves. A couple of days ago, when I took the train from Seremban to KL, it was on this train track is what I took, because I was taking a KTM train, not an LRT train or an MRT train. But there were a lot of other wrinkles as I was at the High Commission. So, for example, I explained to the woman a couple of my experiences. I told her that I really tried hard to figure out what to do, but on your website, the Canadian government website, nowhere does it tell you what to do if your passport is full. I couldn't get specific information about that. And I mentioned that to her. So that got her thinking about my situation. Says, oh, okay, so you're renewing your passport because it's full. And I said, yes. And she thought about that for a while. So, oh, that's fine. You do what it is you're doing. But then at the end, she said, you know what? It's probably best if you write out a note explaining that, like a handwritten note that I will include in your application package. Because this whole package is not being approved by her. She's just processing it. And then they send it to Canada, and then it's in Canada they make a decision. So she was trying to help me complete the form fully. And she says, yeah, because you're renewing your passport 5 years early, that might set off alarm bells, because normally they don't allow that. You have to wait until there's like 1 year left in your passport, then they will allow you to renew it. And if you still have 5 years left, well, the rule is no, you can't get a new you can't renew your passport if there's still 5 years of validity. But of course, if your passport is full, well, that's an exception. But again, that information is nowhere on the website. And then she says, well, just to make sure that this goes smoothly, she gave me a piece of paper and a pen, like a blank sheet of paper, and said, just write out a personal letter about why you're renewing your passport or applying to renew it. And I wrote out in very formal language, my name is, I am a Canadian citizen, my passport number is this, it expires on this date, and so it still has 5 years validity left. However, all the pages are full. Therefore, I would like humbly to request of you, sir, kind madam, to renew my passport, one with fresh pages. I wrote a very long message. The woman at the High Commission was probably underneath the desk, like tapping her toes, going, we didn't ask for the latest Jane Austen novel here, dude. You don't have to write that much. But I like to be detailed. So, you write your name, you print your name at the bottom, and you sign it, and then you date it. And I never write. I'm a typist. So my writing is horrible and extremely slow. Ask me to write something down, takes me forever. So I wrote out this long letter, and then that was included with my application package. And we were done. Well, no, we weren't done, because I was expecting to get a receipt. I gave her my passport, the receipt for payment. Hello. And I gave her everything, and I got nothing back. And I explained to her, well, I asked her, like, what do I do now in Malaysia while I'm waiting? When I check into a hotel, they're going to ask to see my passport, and I don't have one. Or if I get stopped by the police at a checkpoint, passport, sir, what do I do? Like, don't I get some sort of official document that I can show officials? And then, to my surprise, this seemed to be a new question to her. She kind of went, huh, yeah, you're right. That is kind of a problem, isn't it? And I'm like, well, yeah, you're taking away the most important document I own. You can't live without a passport. Now I don't even have one. So what do I do? And I've done this in other countries, dealing with immigration departments and things, and they usually give you an official document that says, we have this man's passport, and these are all the details. But this wasn't automatic at the Canadian High Commission. And then she says, well, I can request a formal letter for you saying what's going on. And I was like, oh, that'd be amazing. And I thought I was just going to get it. She says, no, well, it will take a few days. And it turns out I got it on the same day. The next morning it showed up in my email inbox. So I now have an official letter from the Canadian High Commission that I can show to officials. And I still have photocopies of my old passport, things like that. And I've gotten letters like this in the past from the government. They always amuse me because they will not take any responsibility for you. Like when you read the language, it's so official, you can tell that 10,000 lawyers read the wording and vetted it to make sure that there's nothing in this document that leaves the Canadian government open to any kind of blame at all. So the letter says the absolute minimum. And if you converted it into normal language, like a human being speaking, it would probably sound like, okay, this guy, Doug Nienhuis, we don't know him. We don't know anything about him. We take no responsibility for him. We don't vouch for him. Nothing at all. We have no connection with him at all. No relationship. But he is a Canadian citizen, and he submitted his passport to us on this date. But anything he does, it's on him. He's responsible, not us. We are not taking any, that's what it would sound like. But basically, yeah, it's an official document from the government. They have to be very careful with their language, I guess. So after I got that all sorted, I wrote out my letter. They sent me their letter. And I think that was the end. The only other things going on, I don't know how long it's going to take. Online, I saw figures like 5 weeks, up to like 5 weeks, up to 2 months. But I think this woman said it could be 2 weeks, if you're lucky. So, fingers crossed, it doesn't take 5 weeks. We'll see. Could be as soon as 2 weeks that my passport is renewed and I can go back to the High Commission and get it. So that is the end of that story for now, I believe. I guess the very last thing I could say, I should say this, is that the people at the High Commission in Kuala Lumpur, amazing. Everybody. People in the lobby of that building, professional yet friendly, informative, helpful. The security guards up at the Canadian High Commission, the ones who take your phones away, put it on airplane mode, make sure you're not carrying GoPro cameras, things like that. Very professional, but more than that, they were kind. And I appreciate that so much. I love it when people are just, just be a human being. Give me a smile, a little bit of warmth. It makes me feel really good. And they were great. Security guards, I mean, they're Malaysians, of course, but they're employed by the Canadian High Commission. But they were amazing, really, really good guys. And then the woman that I dealt with, she's the only one that I met at the High Commission, also amazing. Friendly, helpful, not officious in any way, not hostile. She was just a really nice, gentle, warm person, and was there to help me as a Canadian get this done. It was a wonderful experience. Website, I struggled, but when I got to the High Commission itself, really, really good. Yeah, amazing.